everybody? Welcome to Let's Talk Markets. I am your host, Pink, here with my co-host, Mr. Dave Lauer, and a very special guest. You may know him as Stonk You too, Mr. Alex Cohen.
Hey, Pink.
We got like almost the whole urban team here.
I know. Alex, great to have you, a very special guest on the podcast.
Dave, Pink, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Alex has been so excited to join. He's been talking nonstop about being part of this incredible effort that we put in, week out, and to get exposed to our enormous audience of 5 listeners. And we're really excited. Really excited.
Expect a piece in the New York Times any day now, Alex.
It's the reason I'm here. Hello, all 5. We're happy to see you again. And yes, Dave, I've been just chomping at the bit to get here and really just share all of my perspectives and contribute to the conversation here. So whatever we have teed up, I'm sure that it'll be exciting and meaningful conversation.
I mean, exciting and meaningful. That's the theme of this podcast, right?
Yeah, under that smooth head of yours is a very wrinkly brain, so it's very useful. And we have you here not just because you're one of the coolest guys around, is because we wanted to take this opportunity to express our gratitude to everybody out there in the urban community, because last week was a huge milestone for us. We released the long-awaited Urvin platform beta, so we officially shipped product. That feels pretty awesome.
It does.
It's a huge milestone, right? It's almost at the 2-year mark. Dave, I remember the company was officially incorporated June 28th, so we're just up at 2 years, and to actually have shipped beta in the quality and the form that we've managed to pull it into over these past 2 years, it really is something, and it's an exciting moment to be part of Urvin and be part of the community. It's good stuff, good things ahead.
It is. It's wild, right? You're right. It was 2 years ago that, maybe just a little over 2 years ago that we actually even met, and then we incorporated the company. We ended up getting it funded about 6 months later, so it's sort of a year and a half after closing the first set of funding. Maybe 15, 16 months after starting development, which is longer than we wanted. But honestly, we tried to build. So we didn't go narrow. we tried to build something special, right?
I don't know if going narrow was really in our blood in the first instance. Here's what I'm going to do because of my eagerness to participate. I'm going to turn the interview around on you, Dave. So what features most excite you about what we've built in beta so far?
That's a good question.
That's why I'm turning it around on you.
Look, I'm enjoying being able to do research on stocks on a platform that has a similar kind of data that what I was used to when I was a professional trader. So funny enough, I will say this: when I'm learning about a new company, we have this company research section where it just tells you what the company does. And it's so much better than anything else out there that I've seen that I use it obsessively to find out what companies do and understand everything about where they make money and all of that, even before I look at numbers. So funny enough, just that brief feature I find to be super useful. And then, the other side of it is just the community is getting fun. People are on and they're posting and commenting and upvoting, and there are some conversations going on. I'm giving actually
and downvoting. I had a meme downvoted. It really wasn't good, but that's totally fine.
Is that you downvoting all my posts, Pink?
I love it.
It's not me. It's just a test. I swear, it's just QA.
The show's already in.
I will say this as a teaser. I've even thrown out some investment ideas of things that I've been following, and I'm enjoying talking to people. It's a pretty diverse group. It's fun. So, I think that building the social platform, I think, is going to be the most fun part of this going forward. And then we'll see where we go with analytics. But what about you, Alex? What's your...
Me? Me. I think instead of the features, it's the benefits of what we've built to the user base and the consumers and the community that we're trying to serve, right? In a lot of respects, a lot of the features exist in a lot of other places already, right? You can have advanced charting and tools, with, this competitor, or you can have community environments to discuss stocks with that competitor. I really think ultimately the benefit is the way that things uniquely combine on the platform in that community setting in one instance where you can pull that data and tools. I talk about this a lot, those data asset components, or, those modules where you can take live feeds of data or create multivariable analysis that's tailored to whatever your approach to investing is, and put it in a post and tag it with constraints, live, dynamic, static, and people can go in there and then toggle different factors and features and see what their own thesis might have an impact on that particular model. So I think that's really innovative, and that's a reflection of our other co-founder Zach's I think work and real great innovation there.
But have to get him on the podcast next.
Oh, good luck with that. You think I'm hard to get onto a podcast? The most you're going to get is a dog face on the pod, like literally just.
It's a dog though, so it works. It's
on
fine.
Most calls for the crowd to understand, that the giant crowd listening to that Zach, our other co-founder, generally he's on video. I don't know, half the time, and the half the time he's not. It's just a picture of his dog, and his dog's name is Skipper, and he's a good boy, and it's an adorable dog, and so it's okay. But
let's tolerate.
We like Skip. Yeah, we like Skip. So I think that's one real important feature and innovation. But like I said, there's so many different aspects of the platform that already exist in a lot of different places. It's the way that we uniquely bring it together, number one, and then number two, the benefit of understanding, I think, both the mission and the zeitgeist of the environment that you're operating within, right? We are starting with this clean slate of building this environment that is specifically designed to foster meaningful conversation around financial ideas and investments in a way that hasn't been ideated on before. That's combining all of these unique features and then overlaying, some unique capabilities around connected portfolios, the implications of having actual verified equities within your connected portfolio, both for your personal education path, for your investing path, the ease of use on the platform, but as well within the community environment. And the ability potentially to use that as kind of this great filtering mechanism and this lock and key kind of mechanism. So I'm really excited. There's exciting features all over the place, but as you said, we went broad, right? Yeah. And there was tension. There was tension all along the way, of course, from both outside voices and inside voices. You got to hyper focus, prove out this one thing, and for better or for worse, this is my second endeavor. That's not been my approach. I didn't do that with my first, because you're trying to build this ecosystem. And in order for an ecosystem to thrive, you need the constituent parts. And ultimately, I think what we're seeing now is the opportunity that taking that broad approach has provided us. And we're looking at these.
It seems like it, right? It seems like it's coming together, right? It's so, and I'm with you. It's so amazing to see it actually come together.
And as a user, like just from the user side, not even considering the back end side, I can see that, and knowing everything that went into that, it's really amazing once you start to see the picture come together, and it's like, whoa, this is what it looks like. And you start to realize all these separate components that have been a headache in their own right to implement and integrate. Now we've got communities starting to grow, and which I'm a little biased, but that's amazing to see. I love logging in and watching the member numbers for like the communities going up every time. So I'm like, okay, post a new.
I love seeing that.
You gotta celebrate. But it's just really awesome to see how it's come together and come from this idea that was not necessarily born in the depths of Reddit, but it was bred there for sure.
No, it was most certainly born in the depths of, like, it's hard to not acknowledge and recognize. Dave and I collided on the Reddit boards, and you and I met on the Reddit boards, and so many of our team and our community, and it thrived in other environments as well. But really, the genesis, and that's reflected some in our product, like not fully, but you can see how what we're trying to do again is build an environment that feels natural and comfortable to people who are familiar with social environments, but layering in, a lot of capabilities that, as users, we wish we had, we saw, like something as simple as being able to pin a ticker to the top of a community and see a dynamic ticker feed on top of a community. Like, why?
Awesome.
Like, yeah, it's so simple. Like, so
we tried for months to come up with how to do that, like within the Reddit wiki and all of that. Because for anyone that doesn't know, Alex and I we're Stonk You Too and Pink Cats on Acid from Reddit. We were co-moderators on Super Stonk. I kind of feels like a bad word to say. I don't live there anymore, but I still have all the love in my heart for it. But yeah, that's where we met, and this idea started to grow. And for total transparency, I was a skeptic at first. Some would say I was a pretty loud skeptic of not just what Urvin was doing, not you guys, but just in general. I've been very protective, I guess, over the community, and no grifters and no shilling and all of that kind of stuff, and that's at the heart of the community. But as this has grown, and as we see, I saw all of the apes that you had working for you from around the community, that they're not bills. I mean, they're people just like us, and we want something better. We start to work together to build this, and it's so grassroots, and it's so organic, and it's so awesome to just build what we've always joked about. We're going to build our own Reddit with blackjack and hookers. Like, that's where we're at right now. And I mean, I won't discuss what goes on in the VIP room. I won't say that that's not happening, but we're not promising anything.
Well, that's the Easter egg on the site. If you can find the champagne room, well, you get a prize for finding it. Believe me. So.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't imagine my reluctance to join the conversation.
Very comfortable on the podcast, right?
I have such a lovely family. Anyway, so no, I'm like, there's a lot going on with Beta, both where we are right now, and I think what we're building out. And we've got those pillars that we talk about, which are the tenets of the platform. But one of those pillars, we talk about data and tools, we talk about education, we talk about community, but we also talk about advocacy, right? And we talk about the importance of trying to give voice to individual investors, where previously, there were maybe some larger, more detached institutions who purported to give the same voice. And, that's where I think Dave's passions runneth over into my own, and we linked up, and that's where in part We the Investors was born from, and we've engaged there with Chair Gensler and the SEC.
Those same institutions that just seem to be fighting us the hardest, denigrating us publicly and privately, coming after us in all sorts of ways imaginable. What is it that we represent that they just want to fight so hard against, right? And I think that when Alex always says it, and I think it's the truth, it's empowerment, right? It's giving people the right information, the honest truth, letting them make their own decisions. And these firms don't like that. They don't like it when you deviate from this narrative that they have so carefully crafted over, frankly, decades. Starting with Bernie Madoff, but culminating in what Virtu and Citadel do today. So, I think every day that we're around and, building and pushing and advocating, is a day that they're angry about. I,
Absolutely.
I like to think
Anything
about
that runs parallel to unionization in any way of, the ants coming together to fight the grasshopper, that's not okay. You can't challenge the status quo. So,
Yeah.
it feels freaking great to do that, though. I love it. Like, keep it coming. If you're encountering an enemy, you're going the right way, right?
That's right. We're all gamers,
So,
right?
exactly.
The enemies
Yeah.
are getting stronger, so we're definitely
Yeah.
on the right direction. And so I know to start, with Alex here, one of the most important things we wanted to do with this podcast was just to say thank you to everyone who's helped us get to this point. Everyone has played a role, little or big, and some of you have put your money into it. Some of you have put your time and your passion and your efforts into it, and it's humbling and it's amazing. And here we are, having launched product, having operating on a very big stage from an advocacy perspective, and really, I think, playing a role in changing things in all sorts of ways. And it's awesome. And so thank you. And it's great to have great partners and great people together on this journey with us.
You're here. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Yeah. I think even Keith Gill would drink to that. So, but that does present an interesting point, like of what's come up over the last week or so, or maybe a little bit longer. But
always something, right?
Before I do want to preface this before we go into kind of the topic at hand, that we don't ever want to come off as Gary Gensler's personal cheerleaders, or like we're just always going to be on the side of the SEC, or we support a lot of what is happening, we being the investors, but we vocalize what our thoughts and ideas are to him, and just having a seat at the table with the SEC is a really big deal. But I've seen a lot of comments just in the social sphere and everything talking about, I thought we were against Gary Gensler, I thought we didn't like Gensler, or, what have you. We're just trying to have a conversation with the chairman. That's what we're doing. And so, that takes.
I do think. Look, when we see, I think you have to stop. I hate it when we make blanket statements, right? It feels. It just feels that you're not engaging substantively when you do that, right? Like there's a proposal, you evaluate it, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, right? And I think we've been pretty good about, when we see regulators taking steps to address abuses or protect individual investors, we're going to support those efforts. And when we think they haven't gone far enough, we're going to push them to do better. And if we think that they're blowing it, we're going to call them out. I think we've been pretty consistent on all of that.
Yeah, I think part of the issue is that there's a lot of cross currents always in Washington, D.C., and where you think there might be something where there's wind at your back and alignment, when there's a different issue. And I think, most tangibly with the SEC and particularly with Chair Gensler, the cross currents are market reform and crypto, right? Where you see let's say retail, pro-individual investor reforms that are being embraced by those individuals in the equity market restructure discussion. And then you see other initiatives in the crypto sphere that are receiving a negative reaction, perhaps justifiably, from those same individuals. So there's cross currents, and I think those cross currents are seized upon by political opportunists who want particular outcomes on particular issues and use them to their benefit. And I think what we need to do is maintain focus, as Dave is saying, on there are proposals, and you evaluate the merits of the proposal, and then you advance the proposal, because the players will come and go. It's the laws and the rules and the regulations that stick. And for better or for worse, that's the game that's played. So, it makes it that much more challenging. And I think that's I don't want to say that's a feature or a bug of the system, but that is the system. So what we've chosen to do, we the investors, Dave, is really embrace that apolitical but strong approach towards advancing these particular calls. I'm curious, Dave, has there been anything on the other side of the table that has been pushing back? on initiatives that we've been advancing?
Well, like I like to say, we're on the side of investors, right? And we're not on the side of the SEC, we're on the side of investors. But yeah, you have seen all sorts of efforts to push back, and those efforts have been formal and informal. And so one of the formal things that we're seeing is this act that is winding its way through the House of Representatives right now. It's called the SEC Stabilization Act. And, it's one of those things where if a bill, you look at the title of the bill and you can usually assume it's going to do the exact opposite of, whatever it's named. But, the SEC Stabilization Act is to respond to what has been called Gary Gensler's tyranny. So the Republicans believe that Gary Gensler is a tyrant. Now, I mean, I'm a pretty patriotic American, I gotta say. I am unequivocal in my support of American independence from tyranny. And, I will quarter soldiers against King George III if it comes down to that. But, is Gensler...
You're doing it. You're doing it. You got this.
Gensler a tyrant. Those are strong words, right? That's a hell of an accusation to make, because somebody is threatening the profit streams of your donors. But that's what we see, right? That's what politics is. And so, what is this SEC Stabilization Act? I will say, who supports it? Let's start with there. Who supports it? Well, I think we saw Doug Sifu give prayer hands when it was announced from Warren Davidson. So, he has taken worship to a new level in his reaction.
It's a wonder his hands are even free from patting himself on the back so much.
Yeah. Okay, well, here's an interesting fun fact that we dug up in our research of this. Trying to determine, is Gary Gensler guilty of tyranny? So apparently he was the coxswain for his UPenn rowing crew back in the 70s, and that tends to be a tyrannical position, right? So
ask the rowers.
We got to get in touch with some rowers.
It's also a lot of talk and very little action. I hope that's not prescient.
Interesting. So, okay, let's. Last week we talked about potato diets. Here we have hit rowing and coxswain. I don't know, how do you coxswainy? There must be a word, a derivative of
potato, right?
So, all right, back to
on
point. So, what is this SEC Stabilization Act going to do? The first thing, it would fire Gary Gensler and scrap the position of chair altogether. It would pack the commission with an extra seat. So instead of having four commissioners in a chair, you would have 6 commissioners. It would mandate that those commissioners are split along party lines, 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and then it would make an executive director role that answers to this packed commission. So, the party that is against packing the Supreme Court is for packing the SEC. Now, what's very interesting, I think, here is when you think, okay, well, the name is stabilization. What does it mean? Stabilization means to solidify things, right? To give them a strong foundation. Whereas what this would do would cripple the SEC. 100% would absolutely cripple the commission. If you want the SEC to do absolutely nothing, this is your bill. If you are a donor,
this is cutting their legs directly out from under them. This is not. This makes them complete. This is the Destabilization Act. This is not the Stabilization Act.
You're making a lot of money, and you don't want the SEC to touch your cash cow. This is the bill for you. Because think about it. Right?
Do you think this would infuse more politics into the SEC, or help remove politics from the SEC? Because that's a critique I often see is that Gary Gensler is just a political animal, and that the SEC is just doing the political bidding. And it seems here, direct accountability to what? 6 congressional members would do, I think, remarkable.
Yeah, look, the nature of executive agencies is political. There's no, like, that's how it works. You have political appointees. That's how government works. The head of agencies is appointed by the party in charge. That's how elections have consequences, right? Like, that's the point. That's democracy at work. And if you don't like the politics of the person in charge, vote, right? That's the go make sure that your voice is heard. And that's, what I think is so important is that I think politics can be good, right? I think that when politics reflect the political will of a changing country, that's a good thing. When you want to cripple an agency, I think there's a good analogy, which is the FEC, the Federal Election Commission. This commission has been crippled by Congress. It only has 4 of the 5 appointees, and it's 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. It cannot do anything. We are not enforcing our federal campaign laws because of this. That doesn't seem like a good outcome to me. That doesn't seem like the kind of thing that we want out of a government agency that is supposed to make and enforce rules.
So tell me something. This bill seems ridiculous. It seems like a blatant power grab from Congress over the executive, which just won't fly. They probably know that, the sponsors. Why is it here? What do you think the point of this bill is?
Oh, I think it's a messaging bill, right? The bill doesn't stand a chance. We're talking about it, but in reality, it doesn't stand a chance. What it is doing is it is lining up opposition to the SEC's agenda, and everyone who signs on to this bill is going to be outspoken against the SEC, outspoken against Gary Gensler. So for example, Tom Emmer has co-sponsored the bill, and he is the House Majority Whip. And hey, that's a pretty big deal, because guess what? Emmer and Davidson, who's the sponsor of the bill, where do you think their money comes from? Where do you? It's no mystery, and frankly, they've taken a lot of FTX money, which they don't like to talk about. They like to accuse the other side of it, but the reality is everyone took FTX money, and they take crypto money, and they're slamming the SEC for enforcing securities laws in crypto because they have financiers who want them to. And so, what this bill is this is a messaging bill, and I think that the way to counter a messaging bill is to make sure that these people hear that their constituents are against this kind of thing, and that they want a regulator to regulate. They want rules to be enforced, and they want better rules to be passed, right? That, to me, is the answer. And that's how you stabilize the SEC. You give it the funding it needs and the political independence it needs to make the right rules and enforce those rules.
It kind of makes the timing of all of this funny too, though. I mean, they may be shooting blanks, but they're still firing shots at Gary Gensler at the heels of all of this, Binance Coinbase fiasco. And as you mentioned, that's where a lot of these people, a lot of these sponsors make their money. So, I mean, it says a lot more than the words on the paper. It says there's a lot of words in between there. It's a warning shot and almost a call to arms of who's against Gary Gensler.
Yeah, and what a joke, right? Like the criticism of Gensler, like you were saying before, Alex, is that he's a political animal. What could be more political than this response, right? It's not a response on the merits. It's not an attempt to improve the system and make it work better. It's an attempt to cripple it so that these firms can continue to print money. That's all it comes down to, right?
I mean, it's almost propaganda. Like, I don't want to say the F word, but I mean, it's kind of fascism light or 101. You know, you get everybody to talk about gamification of the markets. It's gamification of our democracy, and get everyone to choose a side, get everyone to put a blue or a red jersey on, and then, you know, act accordingly.
Yeah.
So
And,
that's not how it's
that's
supposed to
one
work.
of the campaign finance laws and the reforms that happened a few years back really just devastated our democracy in so many different ways. But it really is remarkable how both, these are significant sums of money, but they're also, in the grand scheme, relatively small, right? $10,000 to an individual is a significant amount of money. A $10,000 donation to a senator almost guarantees the vote. And that seems mind-boggling that it's only $10,000 or something like that corrodes what the system should be from the inside. And as Dave said, the counterbalance to that is ultimately the point of these dollars is to amplify voice, to buy votes, to get people to click their lever. So the more that individuals can actually circumvent that whole mechanism, raise their voice and reach out and say, the money over there doesn't matter. My vote is right here. This is my engagement. All you have to do is engage and respond to me and my network, right? That's the power of the people. And that's where I think what we, the investors, has had significant success with. And, really what we're seeing here is there's these bills, and the danger is that there will be people who sign up in support of these bills, even though they're not going to pass. And that sign up is basically just signing your name to a contract that your position is immutable, that you will not change. And that's problematic. So the more that we can, let's say, raise voice and prevent people from signing on the dotted line, I think it really does kind of get around some of those political machinations that are floating around and those cross currents. Because there's a lot. Crypto enforcement is just an area that's ripe with controversy all over, and that's being used as a wedge. And I think focus just needs to be maintained on where we have a real fighting chance.
Yeah, so there was today there was a hearing, House Financial Services Subcommittee. I listened to a bit of it. I'm going to go re-listen to the whole thing. I think we'll talk about that next week for sure. And I think over the coming weeks, we'll talk about an organized effort to let Congress know exactly how everybody feels about these issues. But, honestly, you don't have to wait for that. Like Alex is saying, call your member of Congress. Go ahead, just do it. Pick up the phone, call the switchboard, have them patch you through, look it up online, call them, let them know that you think that regulators should be able to make strong rules and enforce those rules, and that you believe markets should be competitive and that they should function properly with price discovery and price impact of retail orders. I think that's the message for now, and we'll get more organized and we'll start to figure out exactly what to do. But make sure that your member of Congress knows that the SEC Stabilization Act sucks and that you want no part of it. And you know what? I did hear during the hearing today, the members of Congress saying, I'm hearing from my constituents. I'm hearing from them, and they don't like what the SEC is doing, and they support these efforts. I don't think they're hearing from anyone. I think they just say that. Maybe they should hear from people who care about these issues. And I know that's the people listening and the people tuning in.
Absolutely. It all starts with one voice. Your voice matters. It's just like your vote.
Every call
those
matters.
add up. Yes.
For sure.
You may be
My
the only
voice
call
is
that
very loud.
Alex's voice counts for like 10. Yeah.
Yes, very loud, very loud.
All right. Well, that's about all the time that we have for today. It's been an awesome episode. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. I know that you have really been looking forward to it, and you'll have to come back and join us again because I'm sure.
Absolutely. Regular hosts I see in the future.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for joining us today on Let's Talk Markets. Be sure that you hit the subscribe button so you know whenever we publish a new episode, and check out our blog that goes and accompanies every episode. So until next time, take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.